This video contains heavy music and heavy polycement. You have been warned. As many of you may know, in addition to my scale modelling, I am also quite keen on music, and I am the bass player for progressive metalcore band Apollo Stands. Now, whilst I generally keep these two sides of my personality separate, with one being there for when the other one gets a bit much, with Apollo Stands going on the road in the spring of 2023, I asked myself the question, why? Why don't I just incorporate both at the same time? And so today I present the result of this pondering. It is a starter set from Airfix, the Tiger 1, because what better to build when on the road than an Airfix starter set? So this is mostly a build video with a sort of vlog bit in there as well, kind of, not really, but I mean it was made on the road and I did other filming. So with that in mind, grab yourself a cup of tea and let's go. So we start this little adventure in a hotel in Whitehaven in Cumbria one Saturday, I think it was Saturday morning, if not it was a Sunday, I think it was a Saturday, who knows, all days blend into one. We have our little modelling space courtesy of the hotel and basic supplies in this bag here. This is very much a starter set challenge and I wanted to include only tools that I thought I actually needed. So we have the modelling knife, poly cement, sprue cutters, tweezers, a file and a bit of sandpaper. Everything else is what is supplied in the kit only. The sprue cutters are maybe not the essential part. You can do it with just a knife, however sprue cutters make life so much easier. A small cutting mat as well, and I use the Revell poly cement because it is better. This was made as per the instructions. Being an Airfix starter set, it is very easy to follow the instructions with everything highlighted for you as to where to put the cement. It honestly couldn't be any easier without a video tutorial, and hey, that's what YouTube's for, right? All of the parts were cut and filed and then sanded with the sandpaper after that. I kept the construction with only one exception, which is very logical and I'll explain when we get there, as per the instructions. So the order is as Airfix tell you. The fit, of course, as you would expect, that you can't fault it. It basically makes itself. You just have to follow the incredibly simple instructions. Now, as I say, I was using the Revell contactor poly cement, and that is for the exact reason you saw there, which is using the needle. I particularly didn't want to go and drop poly cement all over various hotels, so being very conscientious rather than overly rock star, you know, those famous bands that have covered their hotel rooms in modelling equipment, or maybe not. Now here I particularly like the instructions telling you exactly which way this upper glacis plate, glacis, it's not glacus, it's not glaucus either. Anyway, you know, the front hull of the tank. I particularly like the way that it tells you the front and the back go together. It makes it extremely clear how you are supposed to fix everything. I could just say that for every single step of this build. Everything makes it so easy. Just, yeah, even if you've had your eardrums blown out by very loud music the night before, it's still a joy to build, and it just falls together. It's quite nice to see. It's quite nice to see the way that the fuselage? God, I'm in plane mode. The way the hull comes together. So once you've got the top, front, back and bottom, you then slide the sides in place. I think that is a pretty neat touch, if I'm honest. It's not quite what I was expecting because I have made Tigers before. I just think this made it really easy. Now, I did this entire thing in one setting. I say the entire thing, not the entire tank. The entire bit that you are seeing in Whitehaven was all done in maybe half an hour, and it was just clearing the space on the little work desk that they supply and setting myself a goal of, before breakfast, I am going to assemble this kit. And as you can see, we already have pretty much an entirely constructed hull. So then I guess next is the turret. There is nothing else it can be. The mantlet is glued in to this backing plate and then just squeezed in between the turret halves. I say squeezed, it's not a squeeze. Again, it just fits perfectly. This is a modern tooling. This is one of the new era of Airfix starter sets, the one which is made specifically to be a starter set rather than having a normal release equivalent. Well, you know what I mean when I say normal release. It is made as a starter set, and yes, it really shows. Anyway, closing the lid on the turret more or less brings us to the end of what I did in Whitehaven. Just the final details, such as the stowage bin. Is it stowage bin or is it a bustle? In case you couldn't tell, even though I have some knowledge of armour, I am not particularly good at the lingo. I've just picked up stuff from the Tank Museum's YouTube channel. But it's either presumably a stowage box or stowage bin at the back, and also the hatches as well. So that I assume again it's a loading hatch for the ammo. It's sort of stuck on as this separate part, which. Yeah, it gives it much better relief than if it were moulded. Again, very well thought out. The turret is not glued in, it just clips in so that it can still turn, then tidy up, and we're ready to move on. Well guys, I'm on the road in a little tour van we've got here. Let me take you around the back because it's got the best bit around the back. Oh, look at that! Woo! In case you're wondering how we managed to fit 5 people in the back of this, we didn't. Long story short, we didn't. Why do you think I'm in a hotel? Upon arrival in Sheffield, I knew that the next step was to do the painting, and I was of course going to use these Airfix starter set paints. Now, I would love to tell you that there was some sort of big significant technical issue that means I have to say this, but nope. I accidentally might have deleted the footage of me doing the next bit of work. Sorry, I know, I suck. I also actually got quite a lot of footage of the band playing. However, because I don't want to pay for any cloud storage, I moved it onto my laptop or computer or one of the two, I don't know, and it is no longer there. So for this bit, I'm just going to say you can now become a channel member. So if you like the content, even though, let's face it, most of it ended up deleted, you can become a channel member and you can get some polls and a shout out and maybe some early access at some point. I haven't quite sorted it, to be honest. I'm still slightly in shock that I managed to delete the best footage of me painting the kit. Either way, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're that way inclined, and I guess we should move on to the next hotel. So, well rested but with the ringing still well and truly in the ears, the time is to check on the paints. Now, much has been said of these Airfix starter set paints. One thing I will say is you can't just ask Airfix for a replacement to be delivered to your hotel room if you're only there for one night. Now, the 53, the gunmetal, was solid. You'll notice I've got 2 pots. I anticipated that it would be solid, and I brought another one from another kit, the intention being to just make the best that I could out of one of those pots. It's always useful to have a spare. For this I had also brought my travelling stick, however the paintbrush is the one that was supplied with the kit. Essentially, when I painted the sandy yellow, which you'll see, you will have already seen actually at the beginning, but you'll see again when I show the product at the end, that was fine. The sandy yellow was fine. It didn't need any water. The instructions don't tell you to add water, it's just me knowing that you need to add water. I added just the tiniest drop, but the gunmetal I opened at the same time and it was an utter pig. Just a solid, horrible clump. So unfortunately, yeah, I found another one that I had, and that was just as bad, but managed to salvage it with a little bit of water and paint the tracks. Now the tracks are being painted separately, they will be stuck on later. That is just for convenience, just for ease of painting. The paintbrush itself is kind of too big to really get in there and do the the tracks when they're attached to the side of the hull. However, by using the flat edge of it, you can pick out the detail that is on top of the tank, as you can see me doing here. That's really the only use for the 53. It was a little bit thin, especially because I'd obviously put some water in it, but a couple of coats, and I think it came out looking okay. Next, we're going to be moving on to the decals. Now, I would usually advocate using gloss coat, gloss varnish, something like that as a nice smooth layer. Naturally, that's not included in the kit and therefore was out of bounds. But thankfully, bringing a knife along, I don't know if you noticed, I brought small scissors and I can't remember where I put them, but I'd moved them before this gig, so I didn't have them with me. But cutting around them, I just need somewhere for the water. Thank you, Travelodge, for supplying this little gravy boat type thing full of wonderful sundries like god-awful coffee. You see, sometimes you just need to make do with your environment. Anyway, the decals are submerged in my makeshift water bowl, just about 20 seconds, depends on the temperature of the water ultimately. As is standard with Airfix, these are cartograph decals, according to the box. I don't think they actually said it on the sheet at all, but hey, it says on the box and they certainly feel like them, so that is fine. I do think Airfix have been really good here with the very limited number of decals that you apply. Naturally, you're going to want the model to look good, and you can't expect that to be done just by painting alone, so you have to supply something, but there is nothing here too fiddly. I notice on some of their car starter sets, you have a registration plate or a badge on the steering wheel or something which is so small, it's probably not going to be used. You know, nice that it's there for those who do use it, but ultimately not massively necessary. Here you have just the German crosses and the tank number, the individual tank code number thing. Yes, one of those. So it's just 3 on the turret and 2 on the hull. They went on absolutely fine. Now, the one thing which I didn't assemble, which you may have noticed, is the gun. Simple reason for that. This spent most of its time travelling in a gig bag, and I did not want the gun to break off, so the gun was glued together separately and it was just held in place rather than being glued in at this stage. So the muzzle brake, the other half of the muzzle brake was glued onto the main part of the gun. That was kept separately with the bag so that I could transport it around until it came home safely. Oh, and one last thing, as a kick in the balls, the Revell contactor decided to clog. Yes, that precision needle decided to no longer be so precise, so you see me just dabbing it on gently without the needle. Normally I would unblock it, I didn't actually have any way of doing so, but hey, never mind. So now we are faced with a fully assembled starter set tank that has been made on the road. There's only one thing left to do, and that is to display it. But other than on hotel windows, where could you possibly display a tank like this? So my main takeaway from this is that these starter set kits are fantastic. Now, I would like to add some shading into the vents, the exhausts. Well, they're the exhausts, the air vents. I have since gone over the tyres with black. Not very cleanly, so the kit itself would benefit from a little bit more time being able to spend on it. But the biggest takeaway is that these boxes do not last well when being shoved in and out of gig bags and overnight bags. It is pretty crushed, partly aided by my cat, who has decided to sit on it since it's been on the bed, both during, before and after the build. Anyway, that has been the Airfix Tiger starter set on the road. Please check out Apollo Stands if you like the sound of the music. We are on the road again later this year, over October and November. We've got gigs booked for next year as well. There's new music in the works. There's lots of stuff going on. It's what I do. Either way, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, channel member if you want, and I will see you another time, perhaps doing a silly thing with a starter set, or perhaps normal service will resume. Only time will tell. Goodbye.